Hey everybody, how's it going? This video is going to be a bit of a long ramble. I was inspired to make this video by the Bell of Lost Souls blog post on tournament player types that really grind my gears. I think it was called something like that. Basically 10 different players, really player types, not actual people, that seem to get under this guy's skin at tournament settings. So I thought I'd do a similar thing. Now granted, I consider myself I consider myself to have very thick skin. I'm a neutral type of person in terms of playing in a tournament. I'm going to try to win, of course, but I'm going to make sure I have fun. I'm not going to let anybody stop me from having fun. So I don't necessarily myself get irked by these people, but they can be a nuisance. So I have a list. I actually wrote down the list so I don't forget. Look at me being prepared. There's the WA type of player, the unpainted stuff player, the rude player type, the unprepared player, the super competitive player, the super rules lawyer player, and the dice gods dependent player. Now, that's just a list. I'm going to go over them now. The WA player. The WA player, by that I mean is somebody, you know who I'm talking about, I think every tournament has at least one, and the bigger the tournament, the more you have. Somebody who screams at the top of their lungs. Usually it's WA. It's not always WA. Now, if I'm talking to you across the table, whatever volume of voice I'm using for that, because let's say there's a lot of people, a little crowded, a little noisy, sometimes I'll go a little bit higher in voice, a little bit higher in volume, I should say, and I'll be like, for the Emperor, or for the Lion, or my Armor's Contempt, or something like that, or you know, kill the mutant, if I'm going up against Eldar or other Xenos. And I've seen players who are similar back, you know, Death to the False Emperor, stuff like that. And that's fine. We're not screaming at the top of our lungs. It's enough for you to hear it. Maybe the people right next to us, depending on how close the table is, but it's not enough to be disruptive like that. Then you got the players, they're not just orc players, but obviously WA is orc. I've seen other non-orc players do it. It's kind of weird. When they'll scream WA or something leading up to WA, and it's like, honestly, not needed. If you're an orc player and you're doing it once because you just wad for that turn, I'll give it to you. It makes sense. You just did that. But if you're not an orc player, there's no need. And if you are an orc player, don't do it every 5 nanoseconds. It's disruptive and it's not really that amusing to anybody, really. So that's the WA player. Then you have the unpainted. Now, if you don't have anything if you have an army that's not painted, but you just finished building the army and the tournament happens, that's fine. This is more something long term. If you're a regular player and I've seen you with the same army and it's not painted, it's been a year and you've done nothing with it, or it's been 3 months and you haven't even base coded one model, that's when I draw the line and go, come on, that's part of the hobby. Paint your armies, have your army painted. I'm a big fan of painted armies. I'm a big believer in that. I understand people are busy with work and family and all that. I work. It gets in the way of doing what you want to do. But if you can devote at least 5 minutes a day, or maybe an hour a week, or half an hour a week, to painting, and a half an hour a week, that can get a full squad base coated or 1/2 hour. Or one guy halfway painted, or a squad, you know, base coated and then the base color put down or something. That's progress. In a month, you can have a full squad painted in a half an hour a week. A full 10-man Space Marine squad can be painted in, I'd say, 3 sessions of a half an hour, depending how crazy you're going to get with it. You can probably do it in 2 sessions of a half an hour. If you're playing Black Templars, then you can probably do it in 1 session of half an hour, because the base coating of Chaos Black is going to pretty much be your armor color anyway. So, I mean, it all depends what you're playing and what color scheme you're going for, of course. But just paint the army. That's part of the hobby. None of us are impressed by your gray army that you've had for over a year. And if you're playtesting multiple different codices, pick one, stick with it, paint the army. End of story. Anyway, then you have the rude player. The rude player is not somebody necessarily cursing you out or being mean to you. That obviously is rude. I'm not talking about that specifically. I'm talking about the players who say they come with a group of their friends and they're talking, chit-chatting about what they did last night, or the games they had in the past, or tactics and how certain things are dumb. Not necessarily your army, but just in general. Reminiscing, having fun, barely paying attention to the game except for like certain critical points. That's rude. If they're constantly leaving the table, that's rude. If they're always on their phone, that's rude. That's what I'm talking about. If you're chit-chatting with your friends, that's fine here and there, one person, two people, but you got like four people you're hanging out with that came with you to the tournament. Have them walk around, leave, come back. I mean, at the end of the day, you made a commitment to come to the tournament, same as me, and what was part of that is I'm going to play a game, and I'm going to give my attention to my opponent, and my opponent's going to do likewise. When the game's over, we'll, have a bit of a break to walk around and just have some, do nothing or do whatever you want. But when it comes time to playing the games, you got to be devoted to the game for that time period. That's just, you made a commitment. That's the way I see it, and you should follow through. If you have to go to the bathroom during a game, obviously go to the bathroom. No, there's nobody saying you can't. If you really have to go, go. Nothing wrong with that. But I don't like to do anything, especially when it comes to rolling dice against my opponent, which is the entire game, when they're not there. So some will be like, I'm going to the bathroom or something, or like, I'm going to the bathroom, just finish your movement phase, and I'll be right back. I won't. I honestly won't. It's very nice of them to say go ahead and be that lenient, and I would say the same thing too if I ever did that, but I don't. I try to stay at the table if as best I can, normally because I don't have to go to the bathroom. Anyway, that's not important. Point is, I would extend the same courtesy to my opponent, but I don't take advantage of that. I wait for them to get there because I'm measuring stuff out. If I'm doing difficult terrain checks, I want them to be there to see what I rolled. That way they, you don't have to be like, well, did he cheat or did he do this? No need to worry about that because it never happened because I waited for you to come back. The phone. Well, first off, leaving the table also. Don't leave to smoke a cigarette. I don't care how bad you're jonesing. Have some willpower. Wait till the game's over. Smoke when it's over. Think of it like work. Most places you can't just leave to go take a cigarette break. Anyway, leaving the tables, let's say going on the phone or talking on the phone during the game. If it's not an emergency, talking or texting. If it's not an emergency, and don't do it pretty much. If my phone rings or if my phone gets a text, I'll look to see who it is and what it says on text. If it's something important, like if it's my parents or somebody or some other family member or a friend going, such and such is in the hospital, let's say, that's important. That's enough to go, listen, I gotta make sure everything's okay, give me a minute. That's understandable, but if it's just, oh hey, what's up, how's it going? Tell me to call him back. So that's the rude player. Told you it was going to be long. Be unprepared. By that I mean, they don't got their codex with them. They don't have their army list. They don't have dice or measuring tape. The dice and measuring tape thing is less of a problem than not having an army list or the codex with you. If I had never played against Dark Eldar before, this is just an example because I still never played against Dark Eldar, and you're a Dark Eldar player, you don't have your codex, well, we're at a bit of an impasse, aren't we? You may say you know your codex, and you probably do, but I don't. And I like to see it, potentially. You show me something. I mean, I'm not that much of a jerk about it, but it's just nice to have it there for reference, because I'm a Dark Ages player. I don't have 100% of that memorized. I have to double check certain things. It's just the way it goes. Be prepared. It's like the cigarette smokers who never have a lighter or a match on them. And it's like, really, good? Really? This isn't your first rodeo. You smoke cigarettes. You knew you need to set this on fire, basically, for it to work. Well, why don't you have a lighter? It's the same thing for being unprepared for a tournament. And it's a tournament. It's not like I sprung this on it. It's not like I said, meet me at the game shop in 5 minutes, we're going to play a game. It's more like, hey, this tournament you signed up for. Be prepared. The super competitive player, we all know about them. They're here to win the game. You gotta win. It's about winning. If I'm not winning, I'm not having fun. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. Simmer down, Stickly. You're here to win the game. Great. We're all here to try and win. It's a tournament. But if you're not having fun because you're not winning, maybe you shouldn't be doing this, or maybe you should take a step back and reevaluate it, because that type of attitude rubs off on people, and they're not gonna not that they're gonna start acting that way, but they may be a little bit soured because they're not having a good time. We're here to have fun. Yes, we're trying to win, but you're here, you're meeting people maybe you haven't seen in a while or never seen. You're playing a couple of games, or a few games, I should say, in one day. You're just here to have fun and enjoy the hobby and trying to win, yes, but don't base it solely on winning. It's not going to be fun for you if you're not doing well or having an off day, or and I should say, and it also won't be fun for players if you're constantly so sour to everybody. Super rules lawyer. There's knowing the rules. It's always good to know the rules and make sure we're following the rules. That helps us get better. Make sure everybody's playing fairly. But if you're harping on them every time your opponent does something, you're ruining the tempo of the game. The movement phase should go pretty much unmolested, and unless there's a question about a certain unit moving into terrain or doing something, just let it go. If you're constantly harping on every millimeter and constantly harping on every word of the rule, you're ruining the tempo of the game, and the game's going to take longer, and it's just not going to be that much fun for both of you. Yes, you should know the rules. Yes, it's important to measure as correctly as you can. But if I'm 1/10 of a millimeter off, I think you should just deal with it. I would deal with it. I mean, I'm not going to get that exact. But it's good to know the rules, yes, but if you're constantly harping on them all the time, and if I question you about something you're doing because I don't know your army, don't take it as a personal attack. I just don't know your army. So that's a super rules lawyer. We pretty much know about that. Lastly, the dice gods type of player. Now, don't get me wrong. The dice gods are very real and very fickle. But I'm not talking about that. What I'm talking about is, if they're beating you, then it's been a fair game. A good game, fair game. Both did well. He won it. The moment they're losing, it's the dice's fault. But if they're winning, it's not the dice's fault. You get my drift here. Very few games are won and lost solely because of how well the dice are being rolled. There we go. The dices. So very few games. I played in games like that on both sides, and I've seen games like that, and it's very clear to both players that the dice are winning or losing the game for somebody. It's very clear. Both players are aware of it and will vocalize it. That's very rare. For the most part, you're just having an off day, got outplayed, whatever. Don't just blame it on the dice. Yes, the dice will be fickle and turn on you, or seem to turn on you when you need them most. But it's very rare that that's going to be the cause for the entire game to lose, and it's very rare that it's the dice doing it the entire game. You're going to make mistakes, I'm going to make mistakes, no matter how good of a player we are, we're going to make mistakes. Don't just blame it on the dice. That's just insulting to your opponent. It's like, if I won, good game, but we played a good game and I won. If we lose, man, the dice were against me the entire game, I can't believe it. It's like belittling your opponent. So anyway, those are the types I want to talk about, just to ruffle some feathers. Feel free to ramble and rant yourself in the comment section or in a video response about your own views on player types that kind of grind your gears, so to speak. My best advice is that you just gotta play your own game, have fun, be courteous to your fellow players, but don't let them get under your skin. Just enjoy the game. That's the whole point of it. So that's pretty much it. And until next time, take it easy.